School Committee meeting on Monday, August 14th, 2017 at 6 p.m. in the Harvey Hearing Room. Ms. Ames, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Vecchia?
Present.
Mr. Capabianco?
Present.
Dr. Callis? Present. Mr. Holden?
Yes.
Ms. Sullivan?
Here. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Tonight we do not have delegates and visitors. I have not received correspondence. Is there any public comment? Seeing no public comment, we move on to the minutes of July 24th and the minutes of July 31st. Let's take them separately. They were in our packets for review. Is there a motion to approve July 24th, 2017?
So moved.
By Mr. Vecchia, second. Second. By Dr. Callis. Is there any questions about the minutes from July 24th? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Thank you. July 31st, 2017, minutes were in our packet for review. Is there a motion to approve? Motion. By Dr. Callis. Is there a second? By Mr. Vecchia. Any discussion or questions on the minutes? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
Abstain.
Thank you. Next, we have some warrants. We have warrant SBW 18-3 in the amount of $44,240.30. I'll make a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Dr. Callis. Any questions on the warrant? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Thank you. Next, we have payroll warrant SPW 17-29 in the amount of $197,582.59. I'll make a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion on the motion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Thank you. Next, we have some buildings and grounds requests. We have several buildings and grounds requests. Thank you to the PTO for getting everything in so quickly. And having some dates ready for us. They're all in our packet for review. Class of 2020 would like to have a car wash on August 19th, this coming Saturday. The Williams P. Gorman Fort Banks PTO has several requests for the multipurpose room, the cafeteria, the gymnasium for special nights, all with appropriate paperwork and fees. The Arthur G. Cummings PTO has 3 dates requested for back-to-school activities and other holiday activities, all with appropriate paperwork and fees. I'll make a motion to approve them all together. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Vecchia. Are there any questions about the request for buildings and grounds use? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Thank you. Next on the agenda is curriculum. We don't have anything under curriculum tonight. Is that right, Ms. Superintendent?
That is correct.
Okay. And so then we'll move on to subcommittee reports. Mr. Vecchia, you held a superintendent evaluation subcommittee tonight, is that correct?
Yes.
Are you prepared to report on that?
Yes, the Superintendent Evaluation Subcommittee met on August 9th in the Harvey Hearing Room, and also today, the 14th, at 5 o'clock. In attendance were Superintendent Howard, Dr. Callis, Tina Capabianco, and myself. Last week's meeting on the 9th, the committee reviewed a draft document of the superintendent's goals and objectives for the coming year. It was prepared by Superintendent Howard. There was a discussion of her draft and the additional recommendations that were submitted by various members of the school committee to also be included. It was agreed upon that the superintendent would take that information back, which he did, and tonight we held our second meeting at 5 o'clock, and we finalized, and we have for you a presentation that was approved by the committee, the subcommittee tonight, for the superintendent's goals and objectives for the coming year for your approval. full school committee approval.
Okay, so you have a motion for the general school committee
Yes,
coming out of subcommittee.
yep,
And the motion is to approve the goals on this form in front of us?
that is correct.
So is there any discussion on the motion? I'd just like a few minutes to look it over. I think it's probably in line with what the superintendent and I have been discussing. And is there anything that you'd like to highlight, Mr. Vecchio or anyone else in the subcommittee?
Well, I thought maybe the superintendent might want to top line it, not go into detail,
Sure.
like you did at our meeting tonight. I think we
Sure, I'd be
got a
happy.
good sense for it.
Be happy to do so. Thank you very much. I had the opportunity to work with the subcommittee, as you know, to talk about the goals, a proposal of some draft goals that I had put in place. As an interim superintendent, I was looking at the goals for 1 year, also knowing that at the end of the year, should I be fortunate enough to stay to build on those goals moving forward, or if someone else were to come in to assume the role, that they would also be able to pick up on those goals and move forward, as one of the goals is to be working on the vision and the district improvement plan for the public school as a whole. I looked at also Mr. Macero's goals as the leader here last year, spoke with principals to see how we may be carrying forth some of those. We've been working on keeping all of those goals in mind over the past several weeks that I've been here, a total of 5 weeks. I think that the plan is detailed and has measurement points for the committee to be able to have check-ins with me to see if we're progressing, whether it be professional development, student achievement goals, of course, action plans for principal evaluation, administrator evaluation, and teacher evaluation as well. I look forward to working with the school committee to continue to tweak that plan throughout this school year, and most importantly, long-term. With principal and leadership feedback, one of the important pieces of my entry plan has been to be able to work with this leadership team of principals and administrators in the district to develop some norms around how we want to function as a group with the goal of student achievement in mind. That will come a little bit later in my report on your superintendent business, but I also took into consideration the input from the committee and spent some time working with the subcommittee on how that looks in the overall goal and how it's reflected in the action plan. The action plan itself is detailed, yet it's not every bit of what I hope to accomplish with our leadership team, teachers, parents, and students, as well as school committee. I look forward to having you read through it and certainly ask me questions along the way as we progress through that plan. But I thank you again for the time folks took to really walk through the process with me.
Any more discussion on the motion or the indicators for evaluation? I would say just briefly scanning it, it looks like much of what we've been talking about. And I like to see the dates and the points to look for evidence. So I think that what the committee is looking for in general is that things are being on course, and if they're not, that there's a reasonable explanation and a rationale to take them off course, because sometimes that will happen too.
The evidence points in the superintendent evaluation that the state asks us to follow, the evidence points are the evaluation points. So checking in to see that that evidence exists, and in the long run, in closing at the end of the school year, to be able to say, utilizing that evidence based on the goal, utilizing the evidence that I've provided you with, how has student improvement happened? You know, yes, we have an agenda, and yes, we have some professional development, but overall, how did our students progress? How did our teachers progress in their professional practice? Not so much just looking, oh, okay, so you held 5 meetings and you have the agenda to prove that. That's nice, but we'd also like to see the impact on student learning and on teachers' professional practice. So a summary at the end, along with a plan and proposal moving forward, whether we continue some of those goals and benchmarks, or whether we now take the next step up and open up some more goals aligned with our district improvement plan, which is on its way.
I do have one comment,
Yeah.
sorry. One of the things we had talked about previously is to have part of the superintendent's report be addressing each of the goals at every school committee meeting. So I just wanted to bring that back up so that we don't forget that
That's a
idea
good
that we
point.
had talked about before. So that it's not a big surprise come evaluation where we're at.
And I think it's important to note too that the format of this, thank you to the superintendent and the committee, the format of this is what we ask teachers to do in their SMART goals.
Correct.
So I think it's important to note that it's in line with what the whole district should be doing, or will be doing.
And it's a good example of leading by doing,
Yep.
and following the same practice and setting the expectations high for administration and for administrators to do the same for teachers, as the school committee is doing for me, setting that bar high and expecting outcomes and evidence.
Yep.
So I thank you for that.
Right, so we have a motion to approve the superintendent's goals for this academic year. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
I'm going to abstain based on, I haven't been here that long, and based on my confidence in the subcommittee as well as members of the school committee here tonight. So
Okay. Thank you. So motion passes, thank you.
Thank you.
We're looking forward to hearing about the progress each month. Next we have superintendent's report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a few updates. It's been a very busy 5.5, almost 6 weeks now of work with leadership team, as well as the interview process that I've been having, interviewing many stakeholders of the community, parents, members of staff in this building, the town side municipality, buildings and grounds, and the like. So that has been very exciting work to do in developing some trends and doing a lot of listening and a lot of learning as to what has happened in Winthrop over the past 4 years and what the expectations are of the folks that are participating in the interviews. People are being asked the same 7 questions. It's part of my entry plan to get a wider understanding of the trends in the district and being able to help utilize that information to facilitate a district improvement plan in the long run. And so some updates on what we've been doing here at central office. We have a leadership institute, so I have principals coming in on the 17th, and then another group of assistant principals and ETLs, education team leaders or chair people, coming in on the 22nd. The goals of each one of those meetings is to updates on opening of the school and professional development items that we need to look at the first week, looking at the policies that you also have included in your packet, going through those same policies for understanding, walking through them because they're also in the first day of school packet for our teachers. Many of them are mandatory policy review and training. There are PowerPoint presentations that go along with a lot of those policies that you have to ensure that our staff is up to date on things like civil rights, harassment, things like that. So those 2 meetings will be full-day meetings on the 17th. My coach from the Superintendent's Institute will be attending, Erwin Blummer, to sit and listen and then spend some time debriefing after that meeting and providing me with some additional coaching on how to support our administrators and move in professional practice. The new teacher orientation is August 28th, so our new teachers in the district, I've met every one of them so far. We're hiring some very strong teachers. I'm very pleased with the staff. They're also being questioned as they come in, which has been interesting to see. I remember being in that seat. I remember when I was hired to be a teacher here in this district. I remember how scared I was. And I do remember a very specific principal who said to me, there's a place for you to go if you don't know what you're doing. And coupled with that came a picture, which I have in my office, of a letter, of a card, little cardstock paper that Jim Noyles had written on when I entered Winthrop High School as a 22-year-old teacher of senior boys in a classroom for young men who weren't overly thrilled with attending school every day. And the card said he was a tech ed, not tech ed,
videographer.
videography, worked with video production, and it was on that letterhead, and I think Mrs. Bigley's name was on there too, because she worked with him, and it said, if you ever need anything, you know where to find me, and circled his room number. And I'll never forget that, because I remember the first and second day of school not wanting to let anybody know that I didn't know what I was doing. But I knew that I could go to Jim, or I could go to the principal, and eventually it became about 25 other people. So having the new teachers come in, and my being able to put a face, you know, with a name, and be able to let them know that I was in your seat one point in my life, here I am here now, and that is something that can happen. So giving them a reason to want to continue in their profession, but also giving them a handshake and a smile and saying, you can do this, and we encourage you to do so. We have a new teacher orientation where they'll talk about mentorship, which is very, very important in this day and age of supporting teachers, and we'll be doing that on the 28th. We're getting ready for the first day of school and having our teachers come out, and I'm writing my opening day letter. I think I've written it about 15 times and thrown it away each time, and we'll continue to do that. I distinctly remember sitting and listening to superintendents and wanting to get out of that seat and get into my building and get my job done. So I promise them that I will not be long, but I do need to meet with everybody as a group and talk about why this is a great place to work. So we'll be doing that. IT, I have met with Geo, just a little update on IT. We've done the inventory. I've asked for an inventory of all the Chromebooks and other technology that we have, with a projection of where we need to go, where our shortfalls are, if we have any, and looking at policy, IT policy as well, to make sure that we're maximizing the use of the Chromebooks, and if we break them, do we have the best deal in terms of getting them fixed. So Gio and Petro have spent some quality time with me around job descriptions and protocol and process and procedures that building principals have expressed a need for to streamline things. So that's a work in progress. I do know that we are short some Chromebooks at the high school, about 75. There's an increase in enrollment, and there were some machines that could not be repaired and have to be replaced. So Gio and Petro and I are working on, along with Matt Crombie, a plan to replace those 75 Chromebooks, looking at the budget and seeing where we can create some efficiencies in the high school line items that Matt has. So that is a work in progress. I'll report back as to where we think we may need to go with that, with the school committee's approval, if we need to move any line item money. The I-20 students that we have, students that are coming here from China and Brazil and many other places, we have 13, which is exciting, 13 students that have expressed a want to come to Winthrop Public Schools. I have to say, I walked through that high school, and I kind of want to go back myself. It's a beautiful building that offers a really nice array of services for kids, and a great gym, and great facilities for drama. I could see why students would want to come here. And Mariana Babine, who is the secretary in the guidance office, and I met. She oversees creating sort of the plan for them to roll in. So we're working on some protocol and procedures to support her, and to also track our students to make sure that they're receiving what they need. We are also working on a new student and new family to Winthrop plan to help our families that move into this community integrate into the community as a whole, and not just the school system. So Anita Preble and I will be meeting first week of school to talk about some of our offerings. I've learned a great deal through some of these interviews. I did not know that we offered English classes for families in the community that don't speak English through 21st Century. Again, that lack of promoting what we do well. And we have run 2 classes. One of the ESPs in the district is a teacher in one of those classes and gives of her time, a lot of it freely, to help integrate families into the community. There was an expressed interest in involving them in other parts of the community. I've spoken with Sean Driscoll, who's going to reach out to some of the Little League teams and maybe Winthrop Youth Hockey to see if we can get folks to come in throughout the school year and be able to chat with these families about how to get them involved in community activities and not just the school-related activity. So that's definitely an expressed need, at least at the elementary and middle school level. High school level, not so much, but we'll work to make sure that those folks are also included. So more on that as soon as we can lay that plan out and communicate that to our parents through internet and having it posted in different languages on the internet, as well as reach out from principals directly to families and looking at them for what they also need. And they'll be able to provide us with that information. I'm going to go through this as fast as I can. Curriculum.
We don't have to rush, we got time.
Say it, I know.
We have time.
21st Century, just an amazing group. So I've been working at looking at Title I grants because Kathy Del Vento authors the Title I grant. So we've been looking at those together because there's some new parameters and guidelines around Title I, Title II, Title IIA, Title III. As some of you know, grants are a semi-obsession that I have. However, the writing of the grants is one piece, but the management of those grants and the delegation of line items is another. So we were working on those, and as we were emailing back and forth, she slipped an email in there that talked about the fact that her 21st Century Learning Center received their exemplary grant program award notification once again. So Kathy Del Vento has once again written a grant that is going to bring this district $50,000 per year over a 3-year period to run our after-school programs, Grant 646. That's just great for our kids. That time after school time between that and 6 p.m. is a busy time for our students and to keep them engaged in learning. The tie-in to the coming school is something that was unknown to me, and getting kids to do their homework and utilize the technology that we have on site, working with Ryan to make sure that we're maximizing our use of time with our students has been interesting to learn how that all sort of evolved. So Mrs. Grayson and Kathy Del Vento provided me with a lot of information that hopefully can start to be a little bit more exposed on a regular basis so that folks can hear all the good things that are happening there.
Well, I can interrupt for a second and say that if parents don't know about 21st Century and your child's going to the Cummings, please check it out, because 2 things happened in the last couple of years where the homework was being assigned on computer.
Mm-hmm.
And so for families that don't have access to Wi-Fi or internet or computer or whatever at home, or maybe families, don't sit down for dinner until 6:30 and you don't really want to be doing math at 8 o'clock at night or something. So the fact that they have the technology, so families at home don't have to worry about computers and Wi-Fi, and the expertise, because when my daughter was bringing home 5th grade math, I couldn't remember how to do fractions.
Right.
So because they have the expertise there and the technology, it was a huge relief to working parents or parents that just don't have the capability at home. So, and they have a lot of fun too. They do sit down and do homework, but they also have fun. So I was a huge fan of that program. It's super inexpensive, and it's the teachers there know what's going on in that school all day long. So to have that carry over to the after-school program was a huge benefit to my family.
It's a great example of communication between home, school, and community, and being able to keep everything sort of in one voice. And so knowing how 10-year-olds like to try to wiggle out of homework, it is a great asset. We also have, I did my first Connect Ed the other day.
Good job.
I had not done the Connect Ed. I refused to do them when I was here as the PPS director because I don't like my voice. You will not hear me often. However, I felt it was an opportune time for me to sort of introduce myself quickly, which I did. Just said I'm introducing myself and gave the bus registration date. So for folks out there who let it go to voicemail and can't find their home phone, like me, August 24th from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. at the Gorman Fort Banks Multipurpose Room. There will be registration, as well as the 28th of August from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. Folks will register the students that day, and they will, in order for their registration to be complete and for your child to be on the list, because it's first come, first serve, as it is not a mandatory service for 99% of our kids. It's first come, first serve, so you will have to have payment at that time. So once payment has been made, you are officially registered. Payment has not yet to be determined. It's later on in the agenda tonight in terms of what the cost of ridership will be. Last year we had 90 students ride the bus. And this year, I hope to have the same, if not more. I am working with a parent who's in the community who's coming to see me to talk to me about an app, a new app for telephones that can help determine if the bus is running a minute late or not, and if the bus breaks down and we're not picking your child up. So apps for phones, for those of us who are technologically savvy, is a great thing. So it's an option that we're looking at, and I'll bring you more up to speed after I meet with the parent, but she's coming in to give me some advice on that. And lastly, the new Miller Field that is underway, I run by it quite often and look at it and say, wow, we're gonna have a track. You know, that someone's not gonna roll an ankle on, and what a beautiful development going on down there. I'm so proud to be a part of that, and to be able to have a child who will benefit from that, as well as all the children in this district. So I met with Matt Serino and Stephen Calla and Rich Safini to talk about my concerns over the management and my thoughts over the management and my hopes over the management of that piece of property. I've had the opportunity to meet with the business manager, the town manager, as well as leaders in the community in one of Mr. McKenna's group meetings, talking about different options for sort of oversight of that. In a separate meeting with the athletic director, we talked about Winthrop Public Schools and our vision as two folks who will be overseeing athletics and other events happening on that field, how we would like to see that go. I had advised Matt to contact folks in Revere, because Revere just did a similar project, and to see how Revere Public Schools and the town of Revere, or the city of Revere, are managing that piece of property. It makes sense to see what other folks are doing, because it brings us about 10 steps ahead of where we would be if we try to figure it out on our own. So more to come on that. I have a meeting scheduled, or in the queue to be scheduled, to bring the key stakeholders in the management of that property eventually, which I believe would be Stephen, Rich Safini, and Matt and myself, to discuss sort of the what-ifs and what the Revere plan looks like, and get some feedback from them, and then bring that back to the committee to talk a little bit, get some input from folks on the committee to help advise me in terms of how we foresee that going. I think that might be it. That's the longest report I've given. I'm going to go beyond my time.
Just quick, one question, but two questions. When you were interviewing teachers, was there one theme question they always had for you about the school or the town? Was there one surprising question they like, oh, I never...
That they had asked of me? So I don't really give them a lot of time, so I ask them a lot of questions. I tell them why I'm asking them the questions, and I don't provide a lot of feedback, which, for those of you who know me, is an exercise in complete restraint management, and I'm learning to sort of not say too much, because my goal is to gain information and look at themes, and but I have had lots of folks ask me why I have come back, and if I like it. And so I have answered those questions, and I've answered it the same way every time.
And was there any concern about the pay? Like, was salaries ever discussed, like your starting rate might be, and was there a look like, or
no?
Like,
I have had
surprise?
the question about if it bothers me that I am an interim superintendent, and full disclosure and just all pure honesty, I am an interim everything. I am an interim parent. I am an interim wife. I don't go home tonight. I was the interim dinner maker. I look at this as the superintendent of schools for a town that I love, and that I have a lot of investment and hope for.
No. The people you were interviewing, if they had a concern about the starting salary.
Oh, about their starting
yes,
salaries?
not yours.
Oh, they're talking about mine.
No.
No one really seemed to
You were going with the
care.
interim mother and interim
No,
dinner maker.
no one really cared about my salary, but their own salaries?
Yeah, they thought the pay
no.
scale was like...
I have met with every single new staff member that has come in, and not one person has had a concern about the starting salary. And in terms of being commensurate with other communities that I'm aware of, I think we're pretty close. I think we offer something a little bit different.
Yeah, I know we've worked very hard on it.
Yeah.
I just wonder if it was noticed or,
So I noticed it when I did the crosswalk between past salaries and this salary and sort of what the budget projection for FY19, I know that's a little weird, but what that may look like and the jump from a new teacher starting this year compared to a new teacher who started 2 years ago, and the jump in that salary, and I have pointed that out to a few folks because it is a you know, a decent pay rate, and I think it keeps us commensurate with other communities, which, you know, our goal is to retain. To recruit is one thing, to recruit and retain is not just money. Retain comes in a lot of ways. Certainly salaries are one of them, but support and encouragement and, you know, becoming a school family is also a way to retain. So principals and I will be working on a lot of that, but that's a good question. And no, I've not had one person complain. I haven't complained about mine.
I guess interim is a new rental, right? You know, we used to
Yeah.
be rentals, and now we're
Yeah.
interims.
Yeah.
Mr.
so-
Vecchia?
The only thing I just wanted to add to the superintendent's report on Miller Field, at the last meeting in the Miller's Field, we are still on track to have football Thanksgiving Day. Won't have a field house. There was a minor glitch with the delivery of some of the special fill that they use for the field itself. Something to do with the trucking of the fill from New York. But that's being addressed, and we're still on for Thanksgiving Day at Miller Field.
Excellent.
And that was all I have, thank you.
Any questions or thoughts, comments?
Just if you could, the Connect Ed, what was the date on that?
So the Connect Ed is for transportation
Right.
registration, which is August 24th from 8 to 10 in the
With
morning,
their
and then,
2 dates, right?
yep, and then again on August 28th from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. And both are happening at the Gorman Fort Banks multi-purpose room.
Great, thank you.
And they are accepting bank checks. and
Money
cash.
orders and cash.
Yes.
And the fee was, if you don't mind?
So we have not, the
Oh, we
school
haven't,
committee needs to
okay,
set the fee.
okay.
Last year it was $150 per
Mm.
per rider, and then the
Yep.
school committee will make that determination this evening.
Yep.
And I will send out an additional Connect Ed with the fee so that folks are ready
Yep.
on that day.
Mhm.
Great.
Thank you.
If you'd like to go into personnel?
So into personnel. So the opening of school comes with many challenges, which is keeping up with folks who are resigning sort of last minute and folks who
Yes,
are
so-
coming in. So we have kept that process moving very quickly. I applaud the principals for many of them coming in on days that they don't technically have to be here, but they are here. So at this point, I believe I am doing the last of the openings, meeting with new teachers on Thursday. Patty, is that correct?
Yes.
The last of the group of new staff that are
Yeah,
coming
we have
in.
one new hire coming in a week from today because she's moving from
Okay,
another
so
state.
yeah, she's moving from out of state. We've done some Skype interviews, which I just want to talk about the fact that we are using technology, you know, just to give ourselves a little plug. We've done some interviews through Skype, and from Mr. Harity's perspective, it was successful and it was interesting, and it's allowing us to bring a teacher from another state with a different perspective, and I think that will be helpful. So at this point, resignations, there are 2 ESP resignations in your packet. Retirements, we have none. Postings, I believe, Patty, we posted for a lunch monitor at this point. And, let me see, leave of absence, we have none.
Are there no open positions? I said there was a posting
Yep.
today.
So lunch monitor posting for today, and I was out of the district today, so Patty, was there another one for
Math teacher?
paraprofessional?
Long-term substitute math teacher.
Did that come out today?
I didn't see that today.
I got the email today from Stacy.
Okay.
I'd have to check that one
I'll have
for
to
you. I'm
look.
not 100%, I was in a conference today, so.
What grade level is it? 9 through 12, long-term substitute math teacher, it says. Thank you. Contact Matthew Crombie at the high school.
So I can check that out with him and
Okay.
get back to you on that one.
No other teacher placements that we're concerned about for September?
No, not at this
Great.
time, no.
Awesome. Okay. So next, we have new business. We have the bus registration fee under new business. Yep. So Superintendent Howard, would you like to fill us in or catch us up?
Sure, so the bus registration fee has been $150 for riders. Last year, I believe in the year before, and it was at no cost to parents because of the change and the sort of transition of students between buildings, which was, I'm sure parents were very happy with that. And this year, I would recommend where there hasn't been a change in the fee for several years, yet there has been a change in the cost of service and the cost of transportation, and so just looking at the overall fleet of vehicles that we do have, which is at this point one, in terms of the busing, that we would raise that fee in a small amount to $175 versus $150 per rider.
Right. So I'll make a motion to raise the bus registration fee to $175 for the calendar year 2017-2018. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Holden. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
Thank you, and I will have that email, that connected, sent out just to let the parents know of the cost and remind them of the ways to pay for that. And as soon as we have our riders signed up, I will bring back to the committee the number of students that we have riding.
What's capacity, do you know?
I want to say it's 100 per
Okay.
bus, right? Or is it less? Could be a little bit
I want to
less.
say it's around in the 70s, maybe.
Oh, really? So,
We had no,
per
so,
run.
so when we say riders, that was
Right.
total number of people paying, because you pay to ride one fee. That if you ride it 2 days a week, you still pay the same fee. And it's a little nightmarish to break that down and to keep track, because students are getting on by their bus pass. So I'll double check the total ridership on that particular vehicle, because I don't believe it's a standard. School bus is usually 90, but, so never at one time, and there are 90 kids if there's only 70 seats, that I do know.
And the bus will do 2 runs, one for each school?
So the transportation.
Just like it was last year.
Just
Shouldn't
exactly, there are no
confuse anyone.
changes
There's no
from.
change.
Yeah, no changes
Yeah.
from this year to last year. There was a change in times in the start and end of the school day, so at the Gorman Fort Banks, maybe a little bit of a rush to get the K kids off, but we'll take a peek at that and then revisit if we need to change any of the times, but,
When we're mandated for the Point Shirley kids, do we have a number?
so 3.
Oh, okay,
So
so
there are-
there's plenty of
there are-
space.
There are 3 students,
Yeah.
so there will be 3 spots reserved
Okay.
at this point for those students. So first come, first served. They have an entitlement versus versus having to sign up. They still have to register,
Okay,
and we'll reach out to them to make sure that they do so.
perfect. Okay.
3
Great.
kids that reach the mileage.
Thank you for taking care of that. All right, next, under unfinished business, we have a transportation RFP out. Is there any update from?
So let's
No,
do back the
it'll-
20th.
On the 21st.
Oh, the 21st?
Okay.
So that I do know, and just in addition to that, I did meet with Jenna O'Connell in terms of same topic, transportation and quotes versus an RFP. So we did send all of the runs of special education student transportation out to 5 vendors, some of whom have been used in the past by us, some who have never been used, to get a sense of the quotes for privatization, how, comparing one company to another on the same exact run, and looking at a number of things. So best price is helpful, but we also have to look at the quality of the service from the company, and if somebody has been working with a specific student. We're also looking at utilizing in-district vehicles. We have unearthed the registrations for vehicles that are up for surplus, because it's driving me a wee bit crazy to see flat tires and sitting behind a brand new beautiful school, and we are trying to surplus some of those vehicles. So moving those to sort of the van cemetery is the direction we'd like to go, and we are also looking at the possibility of replacing the yellow bus because the floor has rotted out. So staying on the transportation under unfinished business, I think it's important to note that we have sent out requests for quotes, which under special ed law, it wasn't always that way, that you needed to have 3, but now the 240 grant says that you need to have at least 3 quotes if you are going to either purchase or pay any type of a fee, whether it's a lease or a purchase fee for any type of a vehicle out of a federal grant, which I'm not sure if we would, but it makes sense to cover that. So I'll report back when we take a look at those runs. Ms. O'Connell is going to bring those runs to me this week, and we're going to take a peek to see whether or not consolidation of any of those runs would make sense. And just looking at the overall budget of out-of-district costs for tuition, for transportation.
And it's 77 children.
Is it 77?
77.
So we would we'd be able to take in 73 riders. Because there are
For
three
not-
students down the point, 3 students, and then leaving the opportunity if somebody should move in. If you fill that vehicle and we still need somebody moves into the community down the point in that stretch of area that is entitled to transportation, we would not want to put another whole bus on the road to be able to have that ridership accomplished.
So it's 77 per run, and the bus would do 2 runs.
So you can have 77 children on the vehicle at once.
Right, so then it would come and drop children off at
Right, it does
Fort
multiple.
Banks and then
Mhm.
come back and do.
It does the high school
Coming.
and the
So,
Cummings.
okay.
Yep.
So we could have many more writing checks for registration.
You could, yes. You
Yeah.
could have,
Okay.
like I said, last year, it was reported that there were 90. We could have
Yeah.
over 100 this year as
Okay.
long as there aren't 77 kids on there, 78 kids on there at once.
Awesome, great. So by the time we have our next meeting on the 28th, we'll have some of returns from the RFP
Right.
and what your analysis of that would be.
And as well as my analysis of the out-of-district tuition
Yeah.
runs, out-of-district transportation runs.
Okay, perfect, so sort of in the nick of time, right?
Mm-hmm.
Also under unfinished business, we have superintendent goals. We addressed that earlier in the meeting tonight. I would say we could remove that, Ms. Haynes. Not on the agenda, but in our packet were several policies, and the superintendent and I discussed, again, how to address ongoing review of policies, policies that might be out of date, incomplete, or perhaps even non-existent. So we do have several policies in our packet tonight. We don't need to discuss them unless people reviewed them in your packet previous to tonight and think that there's anything that should be referred to the policy subcommittee.
I know we talked about this last meeting, and I didn't want to say anything until I thought about it and looked back. Is there, and I thought we were going to look into this or talked about it, a company that would run the policy program for us? They would come in, digitize it, and
Let us know when it needs to be reviewed. Yeah.
right, they would set it up, they put it all,
Yeah.
and they would just take care of it all, because that book is,
Right, and there's
It's
some
massive.
policies that are mandated to be, this has to be reviewed annually, this has to be reviewed every 3 years, so I know that Vice Chair Parent had some information, I don't know if he passed it on to
Who
you.
was that?
Brian Parent had some information about a system.
well,
that
we talked
do
about
that,
it
but-
6 months ago or a year ago.
Yeah.
Because, I sat down once, and the thing is just, it'd be a full-time job for 2 years.
Yeah.
Just to go
Right,
through it.
for sure.
And then trying to find a policy, and they go, well, it's not under athletics, it's under sports, or it's under sports,
Right.
it's under the gym, and it's just,
Yeah.
it's,
I can check with other superintendents to
just-
see if they're
Sure.
using some sort of a software
Yeah.
that may alert you. I know the superintendent checklist that is provided by the Department of Education for me to sort of follow and check in does give little reminders to do certain policies. Civil rights reminds you to review, so what you have in your packet, but that automatic sort of reminder to go over them and update them and keep track of them.
or let you know what's coming down the road in the State House or the federal government saying this is coming up in the next 6 months,
Right,
so-
sure.
Yeah,
So-
well, we get emails from the MASC
Yeah.
about what's coming up, but
But the automatic sort of
when a policy's
update
in
and
existence.
putting them, digitizing them may be helpful. I can ask other superintendents if they're utilizing any service or if anything like an iPass has the capabilities of doing something like that.
Because I really think it would be a full-time job for someone for 6 months or
Totally.
longer to go through that,
Right.
that 3-ring binder.
And the
binders.
policies that you have in your packet tonight are policies, I won't be providing you with this many at a time. The reason I gave you this particular group is this is the group of policies that we review with PowerPoint, additional PowerPoint trainings with staff as they open up the school year, so mandated trainings, and providing them with the policy to read as well. And in terms of special education policy, those come to me constantly, so I know when those, like the restraint policy, when those need to be revised. And that checklist would allow me, so that's how I'll sort of filter them to you. Or if something is coming up, if we're looking at out-of-state field trips and we have some of those coming up, maybe I'll provide you with that. But it's more for your, just sort of review of your own to keep updated, and it's not for critical review, because I think we've been pretty good. When I look through the policy book, they seem pretty current. I haven't found anything that's out of date in terms of revision. So it's more of an awareness for the committee as well.
So I did find some typos, and then I just have questions that it spurred.
Sure.
I don't know if we want to refer to policy subcommittee, or if I can ask these questions now. Maybe send the typos.
If it seems like, I would send the typos maybe to Ms. Ames, but if there's things that seem like they might be simple that we could address now, otherwise we can refer them to subcommittee, so.
Okay.
And we have time, so.
Okay, so I have just a couple of questions. It said that we were training students on sexual harassment, and so I wondered what training students got. There was the sort of discipline policy. I was wondering if it fit in with the restorative justice that I know that Matt Crombie has been working on. And the social media policy, or the fraternization policy that includes social media, might actually need to be updated, because I know teachers are using it to keep in contact with students and part of their classes, and I know that some teachers give out their cell phone numbers to students so that they don't have an excuse when it comes to homework. They like to friend people on Facebook after they graduate so that they can help with recommendations and job hunts. So I think that particular policy probably needs to be reviewed, and then I think pretty much everything else I can probably send.
So the policy in order to review that policy, that would be appropriate to send to the policy subcommittee for review to see if there are revisions that need to be made. And if you could just reference the other two policy numbers that you were speaking to, if not.
Page 10 of
Okay. Page 10 of the
PDF.
500 that I gave you?
Yeah.
I don't remember page numbers.
Yeah, I know. I have it electronically, so.
Yeah.
That was the sexual harassment policy.
Right.
It said that we train students, and I was just wondering what it was that we do.
What the actual training was?
Yeah.
So I know that the handbook references, students read the policy and read the process of complaint, if they have a complaint or they have a concern. But actual training of students, I'll check with Matt Crombie and get back to you on that. I don't know if he runs a specific professional development or if it's more reading of their own handbook,
Yeah.
which
okay.
outlines how
Like the
one
homework
would
teacher,
complain,
first day of class.
lodge a complaint or a concern, or who a reach out person is for you, but I will definitely ask him and get back to the committee with that.
And then let me just.
I think they just had they had assemblies, and he just addressed each
Addressed
grade
it
in the
as that?
assembly.
Okay.
I think that's how we talked with Gretchen. I remember Haley Will coming home saying that they had it one day. I'm
Yeah,
going. So,
I think the
I think that's how it was.
probably.
Yeah.
I think we also might want to review the acceptable use policy in the policy subcommittee.
Okay, so can you make a motion to refer?
I would like to make a motion to refer the fraternization policy and the acceptable use policy to the policy subcommittee.
Second.
Second by Mr. Vecchia. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Salas. All right. So, unless there's more questions or comments about the policies, and if something comes up, you can please send me an email, and we'll make sure it's on the agenda for the policy subcommittee meeting that we'll schedule. Next on the agenda is public comment. Again, public relations. Mr. Vecchia, do you have any public relations?
No, I don't.
I'm sorry, Mr. Capabianco, I can barely see you on there.
Yes, actually. This Wednesday evening, August 16th at 7 p.m., there'll be a vigil at Ingleside Park in remembrance of the life of Heather Heyer, a victim of the massacre in Virginia this past weekend.
Can you just say that date one more time?
Yep, that's August 16th at 7 at Ingleside Park.
Thank you.
Mr. Holden?
I just want to touch base, the international students, it's how well they were accepted by our students, and students that have graduated now are going abroad on their college stuff, and they're visiting those students and their parents. And so the relationships have continued and developed and bonded even tighter, and so there's just a welcoming group, and
Yeah.
I mean, I just hear my children talking about the students, and I was like, who's that? They said, oh, it's one of the international students, and it's just, you know, how well they're accepted and liked and loved, and just the relationship has just gone beyond high school now into college and studying abroad. Yeah, it is amazing.
Elizabeth has never been shy on inclusion, you know, in some aspects, and we have some area to grow, you know, with some of our new families. So I think that's a key when we're talking about the deltas and needs, you know, areas of growth. The delta is we can do this, you know, and sometimes we just need a little support. Mariana Babine and I were talking about sort of how do you get to communicate that, and how do we tell the public, you know, that these students are included and they're feeling good about themselves. And I think that's a great story to share, that, you know, our students are going abroad now and they have a place to go that's safe, and they can meet with another family and share their experience in their own country after spending a full year, and then sometimes, you know, longer with students from other countries, which is great to hear.
When they're through, I'd like another go-around.
Come back, we'll do seconds tonight.
Yes.
So the kindergarten social is Sunday, August 20th from 1 to 5 at the soccer field behind, it's the Salucci field behind the William P. Gorman. And there's going to be the I Love Winthrop Festival, which I think is September 25th in Winthrop. That's being put together by some center businesses and people in different, people from the community. And I think it would be great, it's a little short notice, but I think it would be great if somehow the school had a presence in that. I think that they were trying to get the school band to play something, but
Yeah, they are.
if there's other
I think they have.
opportunities, you know, as we were just saying about how to help all of our families feel welcome here, this is exactly the theme of this day. And so I know Kate Economides is heading it up over at Blackstrap Barbecue, and if you want more information, I'm sure she's happy to talk with you. But if there are smaller groups of students that want to put something together, I'm sure that would be welcomed. President Sanford,
Yes.
anything tonight for
Nothing
public
tonight.
relations?
No, nothing from the town.
Mr. Vecchia,
Yes,
back to you.
I would like to mention for CASA, this year, it's the second annual Fed Up Rally. It's going to be held at the Town Hall lawn on August 31st from 6 to 8 p.m. Again, this year, CASA will host up the Fed Up Rally, a night of remembrance of those who have lost their lives to addiction, and hope for those who continue to walk their road to recovery. As they did last year, they're collecting sneakers for adult males and females to be donated for those in need. Please help us spread the word for this very special cause. We're looking forward to seeing everyone at the Town Hall on August 31st. There's guest speakers. I know the senator has been invited, the speaker has been invited, Judge McDonald from the court system will be there, Chief Delahanty, and many others. So it's a good night to get people out, educated about, you know, the problem of addiction.
Can you
Thank
take
you.
the time one more time? I know it's August 31st, but the
Yes,
time?
from 6 to 8 p.m.
Thank you.
at the Town Hall. There'll be music. If you have any questions, you can call the CASA office.
Thank you.
That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Good stuff. All right, motion to adjourn
So moved.
by Mr. Capianco, is there a second?
Second.
Second by President Sanford. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.